What new developments are happening with adjuvants, especially with biologicals and sustainability?
So I think in recent years, there's a lot of happening in the ag industry, including the pesticide formulation itself, but also the application technologies and as well as adjuvants. So I think a very good movement is that people start to realize that adjuvants are not just sporting chemicals, but really are critical and practical tools we have so that we can have food security and meeting the tightening sustainability targets at the same time. So in terms of new adjuvant development, what I see is that using a low toxicity and biodegradable components is really preferred as a starting material. If you can find the right functionality with those preferred chemicals, I think it's always the ideal way to go. And another hotspot in my view is the drift control. This is driven both by regulatory pressures, but also the practical reasons. So there are some already successful commercial products on the market, but I see that the companies are continuously improving their products by the convenience of use, the consistency, or just to bring new generations to replace or to have better performance. And also the drone application, when it grows and really happening, it also demands drift control, which I certainly think this is a positive push to the drift control research. And then I think I could not mention biologicals for agriculture. As a biologist by training, I'm quite optimistic about the potential of biologicals in agriculture. And I'm quite happy to see the fast development in this space, and also the companies putting sizable investment in this area. And recently, I start to see that some truly exciting results that by using together with suitable adjuvant, the biopesticide can really deliver equivalent disease control efficacy as their chemical counterparts in the field conditions. So I think this is really a trend, really a way to go to pairing the biopesticide with their really a complementary adjuvant to deliver the good performance and to foster the sector to continuously grow.
Thank you so much. Terry, I'd like to send the question over to you, and let me repeat it. Just, I think we've had several new people join. So the question is, what new developments are happening with adjuvants, especially with biologicals and sustainability?
Okay, and thank you very much. And I'll focus on the biological aspect of it. We're just starting to tease out the connections between the two from the formulations, because there is hundreds of biologicals out there, several companies, several startup companies coming up, and they're all looking to partner with companies such as ours or other suppliers, right? There's a lot of it going on. We're just scratching the surface on it and trying to figure out how does the adjuvants play with the biologicals and how can we improve them. We don't have a good answer for that yet, but we're working on it. We're doing some field trials and different things. And we're actually meeting. We have a whole team that are actually working on the biologicals, meeting with different startups and whatnot. We're trying to figure out how to improve the effectiveness of biologicals, because you can't just go out there, just like a chemistry herbicide application needs an adjuvant. Typically, you're going to have the same need for the biologicals as well, and probably more so. So there's new products in this space with limited combinations that we can do. So we're just really trying to start to focus on that. Switching gears to the foliar applied biologicals, some of the adjuvants have shown some levels of improvement that we've done so far in our testing, but it's still very early in the stages of learning of what they can bring in terms of the improved control, because it is complicated. Just depending on the mechanism of the various biologicals, it will influence the outcome. And then also microbials. You got to screen all the different components to make sure they're not toxic to the microorganisms, and therefore you kill them and then you there's no benefit to it, right? So it's tricky, it's complicated, but it's fun work at the same time. And then you got to balance, the last thing I'll say about it is you got to balance the efficacy versus the environmentalism, right? Because we talk about sustainability, that's a buzzword still. Really, truly, what is sustainability? It means different things to different people, to different companies. Well, right now, what we want to do is we want to make sure we're focused on it and that these biologicals will prove themselves out to be beneficial to the growers, which is ultimately who we're all working for.
Right. Just a follow-up question to yours. So, you said there's a lot of experimenting going on in research. How long do you see before, like how many years before you feel like the adjuvants will be able to support biologicals?
That's a loaded question, Renee. That's a great question. I wish I had a straightforward answer. It depends. Because some of them are more complex than others. I would hope that we start to see something break here in the next couple of years, but I couldn't promise anything.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Andrea, I'm going to put the question to you. We still have some people joining, so I'm going to repeat the question. What new developments are happening with adjuvants, especially with biologicals and sustainability?
Well, I think as Terry mentioned, biological space is part of, or it can be divided in many different categories. So I think it's really hard to tackle everything at the same time. On the Evonik side, we've been working for several years on the microbial subcategory of biologicals, helping our customers in terms of extending the shelf life of the product, which is one of the key aspects and challenges in biologicals, and also, as Terry mentioned, performance, right? How can adjuvants, increase the performance so that we can have good results on the field? So I think there's a lot of challenges on biologicals. I think that the industry was like super excited 5 years ago. I think everybody thought that things were going to go really fast, but I think the more we look into this space and the more we research and all of the companies do work, I think the more challenges arise, not only on the formulation side, right, starting with biocompatibility, but also on the application side, right? Especially on microbials. In today's day, you have to apply microbials under specific circumstances because, for example, too much sun will kill them. Too little sun will not make them, thrive. So I think there's a lot of things or aspect that the industry is trying to solve in terms of challenges. And I think you see a lot of companies recently, and probably every week, I see headlines about, companies partnering with other companies, from like big companies investing in smaller companies, startups, partnering with universities. And I see primarily companies out of Europe, some companies out of Israel, Japan, and the US primarily looking to expand these partnerships and potential opportunities to develop, new products to complement each other on the commercial and distribution side, and to try to, tackle this market. Particularly, I think the trends, primarily driven by the European market, all focus on, biodegradability, bio-based products. We've come up with some of them within our portfolio, Breakthrough SP133, SF420. So I think there's also a lot of exploration into that fermentation, right, process. And I do see quite a bit of these pushed by, I guess, the final consumers that, are getting a little more knowledgeable or wanting to know where the food sources are coming from. And also from regulation, right? I think there's quite a bit of changing in the industry when regulations change. So I think all of the companies are looking to partner, right, to support, other companies, customers. How can we together, tackle the challenges and be able to have biologicals as a component of the crop protection management in a way that we can use the resources in a more effective way.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity in this area, though, along with some, drone formulation that we'll talk about